So today we're going to talk about perimeter and area. And perimeter is just basically the distance around a shape or a figure. So it would be the distance around. So think about your backyard, and if you have a fence, the fence is acting like the perimeter because it's showing where your backyard starts and where it ends. So that would be the perimeter. It's just around the shape. And then your area is everything that makes up inside of the shape. So if I had a backyard and I built a fence and I wanted to plant grass or put grass in my backyard, then I would have to know how much grass I would need to fill that space up. So the area is acting like the grass in that situation. So it's everything that fills up the shape. Okay, so first let's talk about perimeter and how we're gonna use our formulas to find the perimeter of our shapes. Okay, so finding the perimeter for squares and equilateral triangles is going to be the same because the sides are all the same length. They're all equal. And so whatever this length is, we know that it's going to be the same length or width all the way around those two. Okay, so let's start with our square. So our square we know is 8 feet and it's a square. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to label the rest of our sides to 8 feet, okay? And so now the step that we have left to do is just to add up all the sides. That's just what you're going to do to find the perimeter of the square. So you could add up all the sides, or you could simply do 8 times 4 because we have 4 sides. So I'm going to do that. 8 times 4 we know is 32. So that's going to be my perimeter. So the perimeter of this square is 32. Okay. And so now let's move on to our equilateral triangle. It's the same way. We know all of our sides are the same length. They're all equal. And so we have 3 feet. So let's go ahead and label the rest of our sides. 3 feet. Okay, and so I'm going to do the same thing I did with this one that I did with my square, and I'm just going to add up all the sides together. I could add them up, or I can multiply 3 times 3 because I have 3 sides. So I'm going to do that. 3 times 3 is 9. So the perimeter of this equilateral triangle is going to be 9 feet. So remember, add all the sides up, or you can multiply the length by how many sides you have. So for this one, remember I did 3 times 3 because I have 3 sides. And this one I did 8 times 4 because I have 4 sides. Okay. Alright, so now let's look at our rectangle. The rectangle is going to be a little bit different for finding perimeter. We're actually going to focus on this formula up top for our perimeter because you see we have the length is different than the width. And so we're going to have to figure that out a little bit differently using our formula. Okay, so our formula is length plus width plus length plus width, or we can write it 2 times the length because we're working with the 2 lengths, plus 2 times the width because we have 2 widths up here. Okay, so I'm going to use the red formula with multiplying by times 2 because that's going to be easier and less confusing instead of adding up all of the things together. But you can use whatever works best for you. Okay, so my length of this is 2 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and plug my 2 into my formula. So 2 times 2. Don't forget your plus sign after your parentheses. And then my width is going to be 5 inches. That's how wide it is. So 2 times 5. So that's the formula we're working with right now. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do everything that are in our parentheses first. So 2 times 2 is 4. Bring down our plus sign. And then 2 times 5 is 10. Alright, and you're simply just going to add these two together. And we know 4 times 10 is 14. So that's how you're going to find your perimeter for this one. So we have inches. And don't forget to put your inches or your feet or your yards behind your numbers, okay? Because it's very important to remember. Alright, so now we're going to move on to finding our area of the square and the rectangle You're not going to find the area of an equilateral triangle, so don't worry about this one. We're not going to work with this one. We're just going to work with our square and our rectangle. Okay, so if we look up here at our formula for area, it's just length times width. So that's all we're going to do for area for these two, okay? So when we're finding our area, and I look at my square, I know that my length and my width are exactly the same, so I'm just going to multiply these two together. So it'd be 8 and 8, and we know 8 times 8 is 64. So, okay, so we have 64. For area, you're going to, right after you write your number, you're going to write square and then whatever measurement you have. So we have feet, square, feet. Okay, so that's how you would write area for this one. So the area of this this square is 64 square feet. Okay, and now we're gonna find the area of our rectangle. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna use our formula up top, length times width. We know the length is 2 inches. So we're gonna write that, and then our width is 5 inches. So we'll just multiply those two together, which is 10. Don't forget your square. Look at your measurement, it's inches. So the area of this rectangle is 10 square inches. Okay, so let's go ahead and practice one more, okay, before we finish, just so we're sure that we know what we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to change up my numbers. Okay, this one, let's do 5. Let's do 7 for this one, and let's do 10 and 3. Okay, so these are the new numbers we're going to work with. Okay, let's first find our perimeter of all of our shapes. We know that we're working with a square, so all the sides are going to be equal, so let's go ahead and label that. It all would be 5 feet all the way around. Okay, so we know since all the sides are equal, we're just going to add them all together or multiply it by 4 because we have 4 sides. So 5 times 4 is 20. So our perimeter is going to be 20 feet. So that's for that one. Okay, let's move on to our equilateral triangle. The same way with our square. We have our measurement, so it's 7 feet. We're going to go ahead and label the rest of the sides. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're either going to add all of them together, or you can do 7 times 3 because we have 3 sides. So 7 times 3 is 21. So your perimeter is 21 feet. All right, and so now let's go on to our perimeter of our rectangle. Remember, it's a little bit different. We're going to use our formula up here. And so let's go ahead and do that, plug it in. So my length of this rectangle is 3. So we're going to do 2 times 3. Don't forget your plus sign. And then our width is 10. So we're going to do 2 times 10. All right, remember you're going to do everything that's in the parentheses first. So 2 times 3 is 6 plus, and then 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, then we're just going to add these two numbers together, which is 26. And so your perimeter is 26 inches. Okay, so now let's go ahead and move on to our area. Okay, area, we know we're just going to do length times width. And so our length and our width are the same for the square. So we're just going to do 5 times 5, which is 25. So the area is 25 square feet. So that's your area, 25 square feet. Remember, we're not going to do the area for our triangle. Okay, let's move on to our rectangle. Area, you're going to do the same way, length times width. And so we know our length is 3. Our width is 10. Multiply those two together, and that gives us 30. and we're gonna write square inches right behind it. Okay, so that's how you're gonna do perimeter and area for your bookwork, and if you have any questions, just let me know.